What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So before we go full postseason mode at 5 p.m. with my New York Islanders playing the Carolina Hurricanes, I thought we'd put a bow on the regular season by me giving my NHL awards. We're going to go over the 7 main ones: the Vezina, Calder, Selke, Gregory, Adams, Hart, Norris. We're going to go through them one by one. I'm going to show you, plaster my 1 through 5 ballot up and go through my reasoning on each of these. So let's not waste any time. Let's just straight get into it. We're going to start with the Jack Adams, which goes to the best coach. I have Andrew Brunette winning. I know Canucks fans are losing their goddamn mind. I do have Andrew Brunette, especially with the way that the Nashville Predators played in the back half, especially the back third of the season. That Nashville Predators team is not that talented. If we're just going to call a spade, past that first line, it's not a ton of game changers, game breakers. Roman Yossi's their number one. He came in this year with not a lot of expectations, rightfully so. They're expected to be like a low 80, mid 80 point team. And because he is such a great coach, and we've seen it the prior 2 years in Florida in 2022, wins the President's Trophy. Devils suck in 2022. He gets hired as the assistant coach. Clearly, he had a lot to do with it, not really Lindy Ruff, them becoming an 112-point team. His system is just so fantastic. You don't need the amazing high-end talent to work in an Andrew Brunette system. Obviously, when he has a system like that, he wins President's Trophies and has 112 points. But the fact that he got the Nashville Predators safely into a playoff spot, it's fantastic. The fact he galvanized this group towards the end to go on that 16-game point streak. Fantastic work by Andrew Brunette, and I think that he is the Jack Adams. Rick Tocchet is a clear second place. Don't get me wrong, but I do think, although the Vancouver Canucks, I had him just barely missing out on the wild card. I am at 94 points. They obviously smashed expectations, but I do think it is more so just their individual players. They had star talent. We knew Pettersson was a star. We knew Miller was a star. We knew Hughes was a top 10 defenseman. We knew Demko was one of the better goalies when healthy. So I think optimizing your roster the best, I would narrowly edge it out to Andrew Brunette. Then when looking at third place, Chris Knoblauch. Oilers had the best goddamn record in the entire NHL since he got hired, around 72% points percentage. I can't give him the full win because, again, he didn't coach the entire season. He only coached, like 70 games? But fantastic job by him. Peter Laviolette. People weren't expecting the Rangers to miss the playoffs, but probably third in that division behind the Hurricanes and the Devils. They go on and win the President's Trophy. His coaching style compared to a Gerard Gallant is one of the main reasons as to that. And then lastly, I'm giving love to Spencer Carberry. Although the Washington Capitals, their underlying numbers are not that impressive, they just grinded out 1-goal games. I saw an insane stat that in 1-goal games this season, the Washington Capitals were 22-11. They didn't lose 1-goal games in regulation. They just grinded it out. And I think coaching has to do a decent amount with that. Not having the most talent, but keeping it close, getting games to overtime, and then getting as many points as possible. I think Spencer Carberry did a fantastic job. Washington Capitals had no expectations considering last year had, 80 points. He was fantastic in Washington this year. He deserves some love. Some other guys you can definitely shout out. Rod Brindamore was fantastic in the back 4 or 5 months of the season. Paul Maurice, I would definitely hear you out. Florida did kind of not crumble, but had a little bit of a disappointing final month or so of the season. As a result, he kind of fell off my ballot. Jim Montgomery, another great coaching job. Boston didn't have a ton of expectations. They're just a wagon for the most part in general. Regular season wagon, regardless of who the coach is. So this is my top 5. Don't think it's too controversial besides maybe Tocchet not winning, but 1 and 2, then there's a decent drop off to Knoblauch in 3 through 5. Next up, Jim Gregory, best general manager. If you thought that might have been a hot take win until you see one of my guys on this list. I have Bill Zito winning it, Jim Nill in second, Alvin in third, Mike Grier in fourth place. You got to hear me out on this. I might start with that one. And then Kelly McCrimmon in fifth place. When looking at Mike Grier, this is not the Jim Gregory is not the best general manager on a contender. It's just who I think did the best job. And when looking at Mike Grier last year, the Sharks had an okay future, but he has completely revolutionized this. For me, this is basically draft night on what you do for your team. He killed the draft. Fantastic. Will Smith, Quinn and Musty finds a way to trade Erik Karlsson with 4 years left at $11.5 million. And he netted, it's probably going to be, unless Pittsburgh jumps in the draft lottery, it's going to be the 12th or 13th overall pick, as well as The Thomas Hurdle deal, I was a very big fan of. Got a first-round pick and a guy in 2023 that went first overall, 32nd overall to the Vegas Golden Knights. 2 first-round picks for Hurdle, a guy that's not a part of your long-term core, that was on a pretty big contract, that was going to take him into his mid to late 30s. And then lastly, kind of the crowning achievement that makes him valid on this list, in my opinion, they got the number 1 college free agent in Colin Graff. Nobody expected the San Jose Sharks, considering, again, they stink right now, to be able to land a guy like Colin Graff, who is now a decent part of their future. It was a fantastic season by Mike Grier. Now, moving on to first through third, what you guys probably really care about. I just need to defend myself on that. Bill Zito. Looking at Bill Zito, fantastic job by Bill Zito. I'm going to start with the free agency moves. Brings in a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson that has a lot of question marks. He was great for them, especially the first month of the season when they needed him to step up. He was playing 23 minutes a night without Ekblad and Montour. Massive reason why Florida got off to a good start. Evan Rodriguez finished with 39 points. Great two-way guy. Only $3 million. That is well worth it. He's going to be a fantastic middle sixer for them. Anthony Stolarz has been the best backup goalie in the entire NHL. He's like top 7 in goals saved above expected, even though he played 25 or between 25 and 30 games. He got in for $1.1 million. Then at the deadline, the best bang for your buck deal out of literally anybody when looking at Vladimir Tarasenko, only trading a 3rd and a 4th round pick. I think basically every single move that he did this offseason into the deadline was great work by him. Kyle Post, I don't even know if he's going to play in game 1, but to get him for a 7th round pick, another great deal. Bill Zito, fantastic job. Jim Nill, his main argument for this award is the fact that he probably got the best signing, although I think Ryan O'Reilly, 4 years, 4.5 is the best long-term signing for this season. Getting Matt Duchene at 1 year, $3 million is just an absolute steal for the Dallas Stars, so I really love that. Alvin, a lot of the core pieces, he got Hronik last trade deadline, so I couldn't really apply that, but he did a very good job getting this team the depth needed. It was more so just their star players that were already on the team that kind of just elevated their play as a result, but he assembled a good depth piece. Casey DeSmith was a very good backup for the first couple months. Once he had to play, once in 2024, he was definitely a little bit disappointing. Then Kelly McCrimmon, I know that Vegas didn't have the best regular season, but considering how much of a masterclass in terms of going all in at the deadline that he did, I think you need to give him some respect on this. Other guys that I would show love to, Don Waddell, fantastic deadline with Jake Gensel. The Orlov signing, 2 years, $7.75 million. That kind of looks like utter shit right now. Who else? Yzerman, if they made the playoffs, probably would have been top 3 considering the fantastic 1-year deals that he signed. But the fact that they did miss the playoffs, I got to slightly push them off, especially Alex Lyon did crumble a little bit towards the end. But this is my top 5. Mike Grier is definitely going to be a hot take, but I think when looking at the guys that did the best job, even though he's not in the playoffs, Grier absolutely knocked it out of the park. Next, the Selke. This one, I'm not going to dive into the analytics behind this. I think Barkov is pretty clearly the front runner. He's going to walk away with it. He's going to win 3 to 4 Selkies in his entire career. Suzuki, fantastic defensive numbers on not that fantastic of a defensive team this season. He really elevated his play offensively and defensively. Seth Jarvis, Carolina is just such a fantastic defensive team, and him finally playing full top line minutes fit like a goddamn glove. He was great for them. Sam Reinhart, yes, he plays with Barkov, but in his own right, prior seasons when he's not with Barkov is also great defensively. And Austin Matthews playing a massive role and very, very good defensively for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's some other guys you can maybe throw in here. Jordan Staal is a guy that puts up insane defensive numbers, but he does do that in like 13, 14 minutes a night. Trying to think. My guy Joel Eriksson Ek almost got it. Not quite his best defensive season, but this is my Selke ballot. Next up, Calder. Connor Bedard in first. 61 points in 68 games. Yes, he did miss 14 games, and I do factor in games with this, but still, when you consider the talent on his team, it's so insane what he did this season to even be sniffing point per game. Fantastic season by Bedard, and the fact that he only missed, if he missed like 20, 22 games, I can maybe see Brock Faber, considering Brock Faber played 25 minutes a night, had 47 points. His offense really came alive towards the end of the season. Brock Faber is a very worthy number 2, but Bedard was just too much in terms of first place. Peter Kochetkov, 911 save percentage in 42 games this season. Once Anderson went down, they needed someone to step up. They had horrible goaltending to start the season. Kochetkov emerged as that guy and really filled that void as the 1A in Carolina. 911 save percentage. It is Carolina, but very good job by him. Luke Hughes, 47 points as well, like Brock Faber. Not quite as good defensively. He did kind of get thrusted into that number one offensive defenseman because of the Doug Hamilton injury. An encouraging season, but he definitely has a lot to work on in terms of his overall game. And then Joel Hofer, I'm not seeing nearly enough people give this guy his flowers in terms of how good he was this season in terms of a Calder ballot. I believe he's eligible. He played 2 games 2 years ago, 6 games this year. I think you have to play 6 games in the prior 2 years not to be eligible. So I was surprised when I saw nobody have this dude on the ballot, considering he has, let me pull it up. He has a .913 save percentage, as well as very good underlying numbers in 30 games for the St. Louis Blues. I'm gonna go with a guy like Hofer that's still maybe not the starter, but a top 5 backup in the entire NHL, playing 30 games, not like a 20-game backup. He played a sizable amount of games over a guy like a Marco Rossi or Logan Cooley, who were okay second-line centers on non-playoff teams. Joel Hofer is not getting nearly talked about enough. And another Blues goalie that's going to be cracking this ballot. The Blues sneakily had a top 3 tandem in the entire league. That does not get nearly talked about enough this season. I was very impressed with Joel Hofer. Next up, we got the Vezina Trophy. Now, when looking at the Vezina Trophy, Connor Hellebuyck's going to win it. I don't think I'm really shocking anybody. I got to adjust this. I got to go closer to the camera. Connor Hellebuyck's going to win this. He had a .921 in 60 games. Didn't play the most games like he has in prior years, but still just an absolute workhorse. Demko, .918 save percentage in 51 games. I thought maybe once he went down, and especially once he missed 13, 14 games, maybe we would have that guy that would climb to the occasion and kind of replace Demko as that number 2. But a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, who played 58 games, never really went on that insane run to overcome a Thatcher Demko. Still a very good season, .915 in 58 games. Jordan Binnington at 4th. Might surprise some people. .913 in 57 games for a not that good defensively St. Louis Blues. A St. Louis Blues team that was 28th, I believe, no, 27th in expected goals against per 60. He got absolutely peppered. The only reason why the Blues were in the wild card hunt was because of him. It was because of Joel Hofer. They were fantastic. Nobody is I saw Jay Fresh do a fan vote. Binnington wasn't even in the top 10. That is absurd in my opinion. And then lastly, Jeremy Swayman, .916 in 44 games. Back half of the season was a little bit slower than the first half, but still a very, very good season by the 25-year-old, really emerging as Boston's number 1. They probably should trade Ullmark this offseason. When looking at some honorable mentions for this, Igor Shesterkin really came on of late, was just struggled so much at the start of the season that I decided not to go with him. Is there really anybody else? I'm trying to think. Cam Talbot was surprisingly good. I think he had a .915. There's maybe some other guys you could end up going with, but I'm pretty confident in these 5. The 5 spots really up for grabs, but I think Jacob Markstrom was also very, very good early. Did kind of struggle in the back once the Flames traded everybody, but that's expected. This is my Vezina ballot. Next up, the Norris Trophy. I have Quinn Hughes, Josi, Bouchard, Cale Makar, and Adam Fox. When looking at it, Hughes is the obvious pick, 92 points, while being very good defensively, unlike another guy that scored 90 points that we're going to get to. It's his year. He should walk away with it. Basically, unanimous in my opinion. Josi is kind of a clear number 2 for me. I'm not going to lie, especially of late down the stretch. I referenced this stat before, but 31 points in his final 23 games when Nashville just went on that absolute heater. He was generating. Him and Forsberg were like single-handedly carrying that goddamn team. Saros was playing good as well. But when looking at it, the fact that he racked up 85 points as well as 23 goals, which is very impressive, with solid defensive numbers, unlike a guy that I have 4th place. I think you got to give it to Roman Josi. This isn't like him maybe 2022 when his defensive numbers were bad. No, he was a fantastic number 1 defenseman for Nashville. I could argue that this year Roman Josi kind of was better than 2022 Roman Josi that had 96 points because he's a more well-rounded defenseman. Evan Bouchard, 82 points in 81 games. Very, very good defensively. Him and Ekholm, as a result, formed the best pair in the regular season in the entire NHL. Cale Makar, number 4. When looking at it, 90 points in 77 games. I know that's eye-opening. I know that should say he should finish second, but when looking at it, the underlying numbers, a lot of that was done on the power play. The even strength offense, especially the even strength defense, wasn't that remarkable. And it's not like you can argue, oh, Bouchard plays with Ekholm. Makar plays with Devon Tays as well. It's not like he plays with some schlub as a defenseman partner. So when looking at it, it is a down year for Cale Makar. I don't think that's controversial. The offense was still there, but when you look at the numbers with him with Nathan MacKinnon, I think it's something like a 61% goal share. Him without Nathan MacKinnon, it drops all the way down to 43%. It was staggering this year in terms of Cale Makar. Still the best defenseman, most talented defenseman in the entire NHL, but I don't think that you can have him top 2 in this Norris. I could see number 3, but I think Roman Josi did have a better season. doesn't mean that Roman Yossi's a better overall defenseman than Cale Makar. And then lastly, Adam Fox missed 10 games, so it's kind of tough. I had to put him a little bit lower. I think on a per game basis, he could arguably be the second best defenseman this season, but once you miss 10 games, once you miss a full month of a season, I got to ding you a little bit. I think next year he's going to be back in a finalist for the Norris Trophy. He's a fantastic guy. Still my second best defenseman in the entire NHL, even ahead of a Quinn Hughes after Quinn Hughes won the Norris. Fox has just done this the last 4 seasons being a top 3 defenseman. Quinn Hughes, I got to see back-to-back top 2 finishes before I potentially move him ahead of Adam Fox. And then lastly, the Hart Trophy, the granddaddy of them all. I debated this constantly over the last 48 hours, but I did end up going with Nathan MacKinnon winning it over Nikita Kucherov. I took my bias out. You guys know I have an 18-1 future on Nathan MacKinnon to win the Hart Trophy that I placed back in December. Told you guys to also bet it. But when looking at Nathan MacKinnon and Kucherov, I think their offensive outputs are about the same. Kucherov has 4 more points. Nathan MacKinnon has 7 more goals. I obviously value goals a little bit more than assists. That's just the facts. I don't really care that much about the 100 assists. The fact that he's the 5th guy to ever do that, I throw that out the window. Who really cares about that? Yes, it's history, but when you look, it should be about the overall value, not 100 assists. That's why McDavid's also number 4 on this list. I look at the overall package. I look at the offense as well as the defense, and I think when looking at MacKinnon versus Kucherov, the defensive differences between these two guys is pretty immense. Nikita Kucherov is without a doubt a below average to bad defensive player this season in general, versus Nathan MacKinnon had his best defensive season of his entire career. He wasn't Selke level, but he was definitely in that 70 to 80th percentile. It was very impressive, Nathan MacKinnon becoming more of a two-way player this season. He's always been an offensive dynamo. It's the fact that I get almost basically around 50 goals, 90 assists, as well as very good defense. I think that is the most valuable player. People are going to argue if Kucherov wasn't on the Lightning wouldn't make the playoffs. I hate when it devolves into that. I hate when it devolves. This is why I hated the Sidney Crosby argument that, they would miss the playoffs without Kucherov. MacKinnon shouldn't really be penalized that much for just having a better overall team around him. And if MacKinnon wasn't on the Avs, I think we agreed they'd lose 12, 14 points. They might still be in the playoffs, but that's because they play in the Western Conference where the drop-off this year was massive between wild card 2 and the last team, the 9th seed in the Western Conference. When looking at Nathan MacKinnon, I just think that he was the best overall player in the NHL, the most valuable overall player, especially when you look at it, as I mentioned before, even his superstar counterpart, Cale Makar, fell off drastically when he wasn't playing with Nathan MacKinnon. Mikko Rantanen's a very good player. Does he put up 100 and whatever points with Nathan MacKinnon? No, Nathan MacKinnon is essential to this team and really established himself as the no doubt best player in Colorado. I previously thought Cale Makar, he was better in 2022, but Nathan MacKinnon was the best player on the entire planet this season, in my opinion. Number 3, Austin Matthews. Same logic goes with Matthews and McDavid. Obviously, he has double more the goals than Connor McDavid, as well as being Selke level. He was 5th on my goddamn Selke ballot. So I think when looking at that, I do give it to Matthews over McDavid, even though McDavid had 100 assists. Only 32 goals. Not that impressive, especially for a guy like Connor McDavid that doubled that last year. I think Austin Matthews over McDavid. And then lastly, Artemi Panarin. 49 goals, 71 assists, 120 points. It sucks for him that the top 4 were so good this season because basically every single season I got to think of the last, obviously scoring was lower back in the day, but for the past 25 years, his season gets you a Hart finalist spot. He's not even close to be getting a Hart finalist selection this year. He was great for the New York Rangers. And I saw when talking about a Sidney Crosby or something like that, I saw some dumb tweet where it's like the Penguins would be a bottom 5 team with Sidney Crosby. The Rangers would still be 3rd in the Metro. And when looking at it, yeah, that might be the case because Artemi Panarin carried the Rangers to the point where they were 23 points up on the 4th place team in the Metro Division, which was the Washington Capitals. Meanwhile, say like a Pittsburgh Penguins were 12 points. Yeah, 12 points away from the Montreal Canadiens in terms of the 5th worst team in the NHL. So when looking at Panarin, although he is on the he is on the President's Trophy winning New York Rangers. They're the President's Trophy New York Rangers because of Artemi Panarin. They missed Fox for a month, even though he's great. Igor Shesterkin shat the bed for the first 3 months. Why were they still at the top of the standings? Because of Artemi Panarin. He was fantastic. He deserves that number 5 spot. So let's go through it again. Adams, Brunette, maybe controversially winning in your opinion. Rick Tocchet, Bill Zito winning the Gregory right now. Gregory gets voted on after the second round of the playoffs, so it's going to go to whoever's still around in the playoffs. If the Florida Panthers make it that far, he'll win it. If the Canucks do, he might win it. Selke, it's kind of tough to debate. Calder, this one's probably the most straightforward. Vezina, Hellebucks, easy win. Demko, easy number 2. Hart, Nathan McKinnon winning it. I actually forgot to do the Norris first. Then the Norris Trophy, Quinn Hughes. And Roman Yossi, number 2. Kel McCarr all the way down to number 4. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Again, I'm not going to say if you're ridiculous if you say Nikita Kucherov. I just think that he was a little bit too reliant on the power play. Compared that to Nathan McKinnon, just dominated in every single aspect, as well as being far better defensively. It's one of the closest Hart races that I can see in recent memories. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? I'm sure that most of the comments are going to be about the Hart or maybe Rick Tocchet. I'll be seeing the next one. Go Islanders. I might be streaming for that game. Join my bracket challenge. We're up to 2,500 people. I'll link it to in this comment section. Yeah. See you in the next one. Peace.